Hi everybody, it's the North Woods Fairy. Otherwise, my name is Kat, and I recently made a video about the ancient giants of the Americas, suppressed evidence, and the hidden history of a lost race. I'm going to try to read this so it's not so awkward, but I read the introduction. I think the introduction is pretty interesting. I apologize for any background noise. Right now it's pretty quiet except for my furnace kicks on and off. And hopefully my dog don't start barking. Getting awfully sick of the cold, I can tell you that. But I am... what was I going to say? I am basically going to read chapter 2. Wait, no, that would be chapter 1, which is something very interesting about the copper mining giants. And maybe even read from the Encyclopedia of Ancient Giants in America. I highly suggest you watch the first video so that you understand basically what I'm talking about. Giant skeletons that are found around the world, and mythology from Native Americans and cultures all over the world about these giants. And like I said before, it's even in the Bible. I want to try doing some other sounds too with my microphone. Sorry about the camera and the weird setup. I'm using my webcam, and I have my light for my I forget what it's called. But basically, usually I use my phone as my camera, and I found an adapter thanks to another ASMR artist for my Fifine microphone. But for now, this is what I use, and the lighting is a bit weird. Like, you can see me, but my eyes look really dark, and you can see like bits and pieces of the background. But I'm hoping that the lighting won't matter as much as listening to my voice, trying to read as relaxing as possible, and that you'll find the content interesting as I did. I remembered one thing I was going to mention too, is that also if you're a Christian, which I am, however, I am a more spiritual person versus any religion. In the Bible, it mentions Nephilims, and Nephilims were the result of the fallen angels mating with human females. So that's where they say in the Bible the giants came from, and they were supposed to be destroyed by the flood, but different cultures have the same story of the flood. However, the giants weren't all destroyed, which can lead me to another book in the future. And I'm not trying to push religion on anybody. That's never what I do. That's something that is personable, or it's person to person. So that's not my goal. However, the interesting things that I find out do not make me doubt my own belief. They just kind of somehow, what would make someone else doubt kind of make me believe more. And I will get into that, and that leads me to other books I can read, which lead into The Smoky God, which is about a Norwegian man who went on a sailing trip and found that the further north he went, it's cold, but then it gets warm, and he found that the earth is hollow, or that there were beings inside of the earth. Sometimes I think when we're looking to the stars, sometimes we're not looking at what we can't see in our world. And I find that really interesting because I just think that, there could be different realms that the angels or, things live on. But I know that doesn't sound very Christian, but like I said, more spiritual. And it's all very interesting. I don't necessarily think the earth is hollow, personally. This is just what they talk about in a couple different books. I more so think that there are massive, massive caves, which is, proven. And there's just a lot more than what we have found, and they're probably bigger than we imagine, and that there could be creatures living, or people, or something living there. So, and it may not be dark like we think it is. There may be some light. That's why they call it the smoky god, because the person in the book claimed that it was, there was a sun, and it was a smoky sun. So, that's a whole nother book. If it sounds interesting to you, go ahead and let me know, because I will read it. It's a short book. It gets pretty interesting. The beginning's a little bit tedious, but it gets interesting. So, I'm going to try to get a couple videos done today, and I'm rambling a little bit because I got time, and I'm hoping that I can get this first chapter read, get some of the Encyclopedia of Ancient Giants in America, tell you about some of the areas and things like that. And like I said, if you're from somewhere and you want to know if there were any giants found near you, I guarantee there were. This big book. So, and just a little side note that kind of popped in my head, I wouldn't fear the things that you don't know. Like, I would just live in the moment, because that's all there really is the moment. You can prepare for the future, but you're in the moment. So, hopefully it's not scary. Okay, so I'm gonna try to quietly do this, and this is chapter 1. I want to get at a good angle here, because this is kind of goofy, I think. Kind of sitting in a weird angle myself. So, gotta be careful. This mic is very sensitive. I love this mic. It is awesome. Let me know what you think about it. It is being compared to the Blue Yeti, which is very popular in ASMR. So, Mysteries of the Lost Copper Mining Giants, Chapter 1. As the conquistadors marched forward to alter the course of history, they left behind... I'm going to move the mic a little bit. There. Okay. That way the book is like this. Okay. They left behind written records describing their encounters with the surviving race of ancient giants. This race had mixed with the Native Americans and shrunk significantly throughout the ages. As most of the reported accounts put their height anywhere between 7 to 9 feet, this is a lot smaller than the rumored 12 to 20 foot giants of antiquity, who supposedly built the world's greatest, or great megalithic structures of Stonehenge. Currently, the tallest man in the world is Turkey's Sultan Kosen. I probably said that wrong. Who measures an astonishing 8 feet 3 inches. The tallest man ever in recorded history was the American Robert Wadlow, who was measured a staggering 8 foot 11 inches. That's an inch shy of being a true-to-life 9-foot tall giant. However, mainstream science blames Wadlow and Cosin super tall statures as a rare case of gigantism, brought on by a pituitary gland issue, and not because of wayward giant genes. But the proof of giants can be found in more places than just your NBA League Pass subscription. I don't know if you'll see this, but this is Robert Wadlow's shoe size 25 compared to a normal men's size 12. Yeah, you can't see that. Or can you? Well, when I edit the video, I can stick these in there. I'm not the best editor yet, but I'll get there. Okay, so they are most prevalent in museum archives. The mythological histories of the natives, and also in stone monuments and lost out-of-place artifacts that have been improperly dated or suppressed by academia. Ancient astronaut theorists claim that a race of giants was created after the alien gods saw how beautiful the Earth's women were and decided to impregnate them. This meddling of the gene pool created an ancient race that became the dominant life form on the planet. These gods soon grew intolerant of the giants who had become nefarious, and wicked, and decided to destroy them with earthquakes and floods. This story has since been rehashed and retold in various forms by basically every ancient civilization in recorded history. As for the giants of the ancient Americas, one might be able to trace their mysterious origins all the way back to the Bronze Age copper traders that once inhabited the icy regions of the upper Midwest. That's where I live. And I actually think that there was, close by where I live, a big copper mining area. I can't really tell you where, but that is a fact. And I don't live far from it. Well, to me it's not far. I live in the country, so everything's far. Something interesting about that, when they said that the aliens found the human women to be beautiful, so they impregnated them. That sounds a lot like in the Bible, the Nephilims that were created because of the fallen angels and impregnating human women. So, I don't know. I don't think that, does anything against the Bible. I think that kind of all these little things kind of prove something. What they see as alien gods could just be fallen angels, or it could be alien gods. I don't know. This story. Okay, yeah. So these gods soon grew intolerant of the giants who had become nefarious and wicked and decided to destroy them with earthquakes and floods. This story has since been rehashed and retold in various forms by basically every ancient civilization in recorded history. As for the giants of the ancient Americas, one might be able to trace their mysterious origins all the way back to the Bronze Age. Copper traders that once inhabited the icy regions of the upper Midwest. The Bronze Age was a period in history epitomized by the usage of bronze from the times of 3200 to 600 BC. It's an important milestone in human history with one major issue. Where exactly did all the copper come from? Obviously, we know that Europe had its own Bronze Age, but archaeologists have reluctantly begun to accept that a lot more copper was used than the amounts attributed to European mines. The answer, of course, is America. Science has determined that large quantities of copper were mined in the Midwest during the European Bronze Age. However, nobody knows what happened to the copper after it was mined there. To mainstream archaeology, the answer is unquestionably no, as they remain adamant that there was no transoceanic contacts in the Bronze Age. Perhaps they should look at this recent scientific literature, which provides ample amounts of evidence that the best copper of the era couldn't have possibly come from Europe. More than 10 tons of copper oxide ingots recovered from a Bronze Age shipwreck off the coast of Turkey were found to be extraordinarily pure at more than 99.5%. Only Michigan copper, which was mined in enormous amounts during the Bronze Age, is of this purity. Other similar ingots, I hope I'm saying that right, INGOTS, ingots, okay, have been discovered in Crete, Sardinia, Cyprus, Turkey, Bulgaria, Israel, Egypt, and England. Copper is one of the most common metals on the face of the earth. Copper is one of the most However, copper that registers over 90% is extremely rare and has only been discovered in the mines of the American Midwest. Historians estimate that 500 million pounds of copper was mined by ancient miners throughout a period of 1,000 years in ancient Michigan alone. Yet nobody knows where that Michigan copper went. However, if you visit London's British Museum Bronze Age Axe exhibit, you'll be informed that from about 2500 BC, the use of copper, which was formerly limited to the areas of southern Europe, somehow swept through the rest of the continent, despite the fact that nobody knows where the copper in Europe came from. Native Indian legends. I like this because I really like Native American legends and stuff like that. Native Indian legends claim the copper was mined by a seafaring, red-haired race of giants. And this is something really common that you'll find when you read about or learn about these. I also suggest you Google large skeletons found around the world and then go to images, Google images, and you will see pictures of stuff like that. So not just from me in this book, but in Google. Legends of the northern Wisconsin's Menominee Indians, that would be my state, my home state, say the ancient mines were first identified by magical stones possessed by the giants. When these giants pointed their enchanted stones at the ground, a ringing sound would echo off the stones, detailing the location of the copper ore deposits, like some sort of ancient metal detector. That's what I was thinking. You know, ancient people, they're finding that they had some kind of better technology or, you know, something around their time periods did, but what they think is this magic stone. That's why the word magic is so, I think it's a bad word for a lot of reasons. Magic. You think of someone who does card tricks or a witch. But if someone's religion was Wiccan or a pagan or whatever, magic is not magic. Sometimes magic could be something that we didn't understand, but we now do because we have the technology. Or magic could have been them, going along with the flow of the earth and knowing how things worked, like the seasons, astrology, the stars, knowing the patterns of the world. So that's interesting. When giants pointed their enchanted stones at the ground, a ringing sound would echo off the stones, detailing the location of the copper ore deposits like some sort of ancient metal detector. Besides their mining operation, this mysterious giant race of miners left no other evidence of their existence behind. Not one burial or crematory deposit exits at or near any of the Midwestern mining sites. Maybe these giants only worked during the summer seasons, returning home across the Atlantic or moving south during the more frigid winter months. This would explain the absence of any buildings or copper melting facilities that would be required for longer stays. But where did this copper mining knowledge originate from? There isn't an established answer. North America has no clear-cut source for this copper mining culture that, according to the natives, were a race of sailing, vagabond giants. When questioned about the mines, the natives only knew of their existence in distant memories and legends. Very cool. Very cool. Yet, amazingly, a few pieces of historical evidence associated with these mysterious miners have been found. In 1660, a French missionary named Claude Jean Aloise stumbled upon a 12-inch copper statue that depicted a man with a beard, which is pretty peculiar considering that the native Indians couldn't grow beards. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Another giant linking artifact is the remarkable rock-carved petroglyph circa 1640, detailing one of their sailing ships, which can be seen at Copper Harbor, Keweenaw, Peninsula, Michigan. I should know that, but I don't. I'm sorry. So sorry. I'm dyslexic and sometimes I just don't read big words or different words the way I used to. I'm actually educated, but I don't know. During this 1,000-year period of copper mining, it would make sense that some of the miners branched out to explore the western areas of the American continent. They might have even begun to interbreed with the native populations during this time. A fascinating discovery related to the red-haired giants comes from the Lovelock Cave on Lake Lahontan in Nevada. In 1924, a pair of bat guano farmers discovered a group of mummified giants with fish nets, duck decoys, and shell art in a cave in Lovelock, Nevada. The various sea-associated relics found in the burial point back to a time when Nevada was flush and abundant rivers, lakes, and water sources. A giant handprint and extremely large 15-inch sandal was also discovered in the cave, and one of the giant skulls was promptly displayed in the small town's museum up until 2010, before disappearing into memory due to a change in museum policy. That's a little strange, don't you think? Maybe The local. Okay. Sorry. The giant handprint, discovered in 2013, was recently vandalized in an attempt to erase its existence. The local Paiutes, a tribe of indigenous to parts of Nevada, have an oral tradition about a race of unfriendly and cannibalistic red-headed giants that came to the Lovelock Cave area from unknown lands thousands of years ago. It seems these mysterious giants trekked and sailed across the American West at least 3,000 years before the Lewis and Clark expedition. They even brought back a shrub typically found in the rainforest gulches of the Pacific Northwest. This strange shrub with giant leaves and spiny stems doesn't appear anywhere else east of the Rocky Mountains. This plant has been used medicinally for hundreds of years to treat diabetes, tumors, and tuberculosis. And it appears that it was brought to the Lake Superior region in ancient times and planted at the exact same spots where the giant miners were excavating copper. These giants were well traveled. One of their arrowheads was discovered near a megalithic stone in the seaside town of Cornwall, England. When the farmer that discovered the arrowhead sent it to the British Museum for identification, the museum shockingly replied that the arrowhead was more than 5,000 years old and came from Michigan. The fact that the arrowhead was near a megalithic monument is even more intriguing, considering that megaliths and giants have become synonymous throughout history. There's a picture here. Entrance to Lovelock Cave near Lovelock, Nevada. I don't know if you can see it. You can. It's probably backwards, but it doesn't matter. Since I'm reading this book and this is supposed to be interesting and about information, I grew up near Lake Michigan. I literally lived across the street from it one time. Like I said, I'm from Kenosha, Wisconsin, and Kenosha actually has some of the best beaches, I think, that I heard for Lake Michigan. We used to actually be able to swim in it when we were little. But over time, all the pollution, it wasn't always safe to go to the beach and swim in it. But now I live near Lake Superior, and I think, it's like maybe 2 hours away. So I'm thinking what they said in there about the copper mining, that plant that cured diabetes, tumors, and tuberculosis, or treated it, was brought by Lake Superior. It doesn't mention what the plant was, so if anybody happens to know anything about a plant like that near Lake Superior, I think this summer we're gonna take a trip, me, my husband, and my baby. She's gonna be a year old, so she'll be walking and everything. We're gonna take a trip out there, and I'm gonna do some exploring. I love exploring. America has a megalithic history as well, albeit one rarely discussed. In Northeast, ancient dolmens and stoneworks that align to the solstices can be found in New Hampshire, New York, Vermont, Massachusetts, and all the way up into Canada and Nova Scotia. Wow. When the English pilgrims began to settle the Northeast, they were shocked to find the same types of megalithic structures they had known in the Bronze Age. The Bronze Age Europe. The governor of Connecticut in 1657, John Winthrop Jr., a prominent member of the Royal Academy in London, wrote lengthy papers about these ancient stone forts and dolmens in New England. He compared them to stone wonders found on the misty hills of Avebury in southwest England. When asking the local Algonquin Indians, for information regarding these northeastern megaliths, Winthrop Jr. was disappointed that they didn't know any more than he did and attributed their mysterious origins to an ancient race of long-lost giants. Eventually, the 20th century dawned, and the reports from Winthrop Jr. and others documenting pre-Columbian voyages across the Atlantic were subsequently left out of the history books. This meant that the possibilities of megalithic works were found in America, which mirrored those of ancient Europe, were relegated to the list of impossible despite the obvious proof of their existence. Academia would soon just ignore the topic altogether. Even when Harvard-educated genius Barry Fell wrote books about this subject in the 1970s. In an effort to shift the paradigm, the establishment went out of their way to destroy him in the hopes that his information would never reach the enlightened minds in the future. They did a good job, as Fell's theories aren't taught in schools. Stonehenge in Salem, New Hampshire. Sorry, I cut that off there. His books have been assigned a permanent home in dusty basements of most libraries. In the Ohio Valley, an era of rampant with mounds and giant bones, there is a Bronze Age henge similar to those discovered on the British Isles. Used as solar markers in calendars, a henge is usually a circular or oval-shaped area that's confined by earthworks comprised of timber, stone circles, monoliths, burials, and earthen mounds. These megalithic stone circle henges frighten archaeologists because it destroys their false timeline of history. From the Bureau of Ethnology, 12th Annual Report, West Virginia. Just reminds me of when I lived in Kentucky, and a lot of people talk about West Virginia has a lot of crazy stuff there, and it mentions something in either this book or the encyclopedia about Kentucky. I don't know. West Virginia reminds me of this. I don't know why. Kentucky's a different place than anywhere I've been, so it's southern. But Kentucky and Tennessee, I'll be mentioning this later, are in some Native American language means the river of blood or something with blood. And I gotta be honest, if you're from Kentucky, I'm not trying to offend you because I did love it down there, especially during the winter. It was shorter, and the summer, and the people seemed nice. But it was creepy at night. It's creepy up here at night if you don't have a dog or something living in the woods, but it was way creepier down there. Just a little side note. His books have been assigned a permanent home in the dusty basements of most libraries. In the Ohio Valley, an area rampant with mounds and giant bones, there is a Bronze Age henge similar to those discovered on the British Isles. Used as solar markers in calendars, a henge is usually a circular or oval-shaped area that's confined by earthworks comprised of timber, stone, circles, monoliths, burials, and earthen mounds. I already read this. Sorry, guys. I hope it's So, from the Bureau of Ethnology 12th Annual Report, West Virginia, where I got off track. Below the mouth of the Kanawha, the caving in of the bank of the Ohio had exposed a wall of stone, on some of the slabs of which were rude totemic and other marks made by some pecking tool. Careful excavations revealed a circular enclosure about 100 feet diameter. Inside measurements, the wall was composed of angular slabs of various sizes from the hills nearby and averaged 25 feet across the base of a 3.5 in height. Many of these stones bore evidences of fire. The spaces between them, they were laid flat with joints broken, being filled with charcoal, ashes, and earth, separate or mixed. The sediment from the overflows has accumulated to the depth of about 5 feet since the wall was built, and in its existence was never suspected until exposed as stated by the falling in the bank. This may not be Aboriginal work. The doorway lintel in the lower mound is distinctly European. Just seeing how far this goes. Okay, so we got a few more pages. There is also a solar henge complex in Newark, Ohio, which consists of a stone circle that tracked the moon and the movement of the sun. Recent excavations around the ditch of the henge unearthed a pile of burnt wood. Carbon dating tests revealed a date between 1000 and 800 BC, placing the henge in a time frame that doesn't jive with historical paradigm put forth by established academia. In fact, the entire state of Ohio is home to a diverse amount of strange American anomalies. I didn't know that. I have a friend I did a podcast with on my other channel who is from Ohio, and he's a truck driver. He does podcasts for truck drivers. It's very interesting. I should mention that to him next time. From mounds to giants to mysterious ancient tablets, it seems that the upper Ohio Valley was once host to a lost, forgotten race of giants. Could this be where the giant miners of Michigan decided to call home when they weren't hammering out copper? Excavated mounds in Chillicothe, Ohio, produced art ranging from metal copper birds to numerous intricately carved effigy pipes and copper masks. One report even listed the burial of an ancient giant decked out in copper armor. I'm going to pause for just a second here. You won't even notice. Okay. Okay, I'm back. I forgot to put my headphones in. I love this mic. It sounds good to me. Okay, so I believe we were here. Ohio is the home to a diverse amount of strange American anomalies, from mounds to giants to mysterious ancient tablets. It seems that the upper Ohio Valley was once host to a lost, forgotten race of giants. Could this be where the giant miners of Michigan decided to call home when they weren't hammering out copper? Excavated mounds in Chillicothe, Ohio, produced art ranging from metal copper birds to numerous intricately carved, I did read this, effigy pipes and copper masks. One report even listed the burial of an ancient giant decked out in copper armor. The party, under the direction of Chief Putin of the Ethnological Department of Exposition, who had been making excavations of the mounds in Ohio for several months, met with rare success near Chillicothe, and making one of the richest finds of the century in the way of prehistoric remains. While at work on a mound near Chillicothe, 500 feet long, 200 feet wide, and 28 feet high, they found the massive skeleton of a man encased in copper armor. The head covered with an oval-shaped copper cap, the arms dressed in copper with copper plates on the breast, and stomach, while on each side of the let's move this a little bit. On each side of the head, on protruding sticks, were wooden antlers ornamented with copper. Pretty cool. Mound excavations done in the late 1800s revealed even more astonishing finds related to giants, including huge rust-corroded iron helmets, 39-pound copper axes, an elaborate conch and pyrrhula shell inspired necklaces imported all the way from the Atlantic Ocean. Mounds in Bainbridge, Ohio revealed mummified bodies draped in pearl-covered robes, 500,000 fresh-water pearls, and more giants decked out in copper helmets and armor. Hundreds of newspaper reports commented on the vast amount of giant discoveries that were being made in Ohio during the settling of America, similar to this account from the Stevens Point Daily Journal in 1886. This is the Ohio account of 9 giants. It is very evident that at an early day in the history of this country, this section of Ohio was an important camping ground for the American Indian. And indeed, discoveries are frequently made which led people interested in the matter of prehistoric America to believe that a race of mankind superior in size, strength, and intelligence to the common red man of the forest flourished not only along the coasts east and south, but right here in southern Ohio. There are in this country several burying grounds, and 2 of them are located 5 miles west of the city near Jasper. One on the farm of Mr. William Bush, and one on Mr. Matthew Mark's farm. In a conversation with a gentleman who has seen skeletons unearthed at the Mark Bank, we were told that many dozens of human skeletons have been exhumed since the bank was first opened. Some of these skeletons have been measured, and the largest have been found to be 9 feet long and over. At one time, 10 skeletons were exhumed. They had been buried in a circle, standing in an erect position, and were in a comparatively well-preserved condition. One remarkable fact about all the skeletons unearthed at these places is the perfect state of preservation in which their teeth are found to be. Not a decayed tooth has been discovered. That would be nice. I don't have any decayed tooth, but, And this would seem to indicate that these people naturally had excellent teeth or some extraordinary manner of preserving them. On September 26, 1889, the Cincinnati Courier-Gazette reported, "Gigantic man buried alongside a colossal panther." Wow. Wouldn't you like a panther? If it was nice. About 5 feet above this layer, or 9 feet from the summit of the mound, was a skeleton of a very large individual who had buried by the side of it the bones of a panther. The skull of this panther was very large, teeth very long and sharp. It would take a mound builder of a great deal of nerve to attack a beast of this size if he had nothing but a stone hatchet and bow and arrows to defend himself with. Just below the skeleton and lying on the layer of buried bones was a medium-sized personage who had buried around his neck in the manner of a necklace between his upper and lower jaw 147 bone and shell beads. The shell beads were made from the thick part of the conch and the pyrula shells. These shells must have been carried from the Atlantic Ocean, as they are ocean shells, and not found inland, or the tribe to which the man belonged may have traded with tribes near the ocean and thereby got the beads. While digging in preparation for the World's Fair in Ohio, workers were shocked to discover the copper-clad burial of an ancient giant monarch. The November 21st, 1891 edition of Ohio Enterprise read, Warren K. Moorhead and Dr. Cresson, who have been persecuting excavations here for the past 2 months in the interest of the World's Fair, have just made one of the richest finds of the century in the way of prehistoric remains. Those gentlemen have confined their excavation to the Hopewell Farm, 7 miles from here, upon which are located some 20-odd Indian mounds. On Saturday, they were at work on a mound 500 feet long, 200 feet wide, and 28 feet high. At the depth of 14 feet near the center of the mound, they exhumed the massive skeleton of a man encased in copper armor. The head was covered in oval-shaped copper cap. The jaws had copper moldings. The arms were dressed in copper, while copper plates covered the chest and the stomach on each side of the head. On protruding sticks were wooden antlers ornamented with copper. The mouth was stuffed with genuine pearls of immense size but much decayed. Around the neck was a necklace of bear's teeth set with pearls. At the side of the male skeleton was also found a female skeleton, the two supposed to be man and wife. Mr. Moorhead and Mr. Cresson believe they have at last found the king of the mound builders. However impressive this once mighty lost race of copper mining giants had been, by the time the Spanish conquistadors came to the Americas, they were nothing more than a fleeting memory of shadows of bad fairy tales at the end of Native American folk stories. So that is the end of Chapter 1. Chapter 2 is Giants of the Southeast, which should be pretty interesting too. All of it is, actually. But I we know it's Chapter 2. My voice is kind of giving out on me a little bit, so I'm going to whisper. I'm going to see if there's anything in the encyclopedia real quick that I can show you, and then I'm going to continue to make another video. My next video hopefully will be one for sleep and relaxation, meditation. Okay, so I'll be right back and you won't even know it. Okay, I found something interesting in the encyclopedia. It goes along with something I was talking about with Kentucky. It mentions Ohio again, and Kentucky and Tennessee in this Native American tribe, I believe, were the same thing. So I highlighted some stuff in here. I don't think you'll be able to see it. No. But this book. Okay. I'm not going to read everything because it gets a little too, the words get a little bit too, like, boring. And the way it's an encyclopedia, so. War with the Giants is what this is called. Prehistoric Men of Kentucky by Colonial Bennett A. Young, 1910. James Moore of Kentucky was told by an old Indian that the primitive inhabitants of the state had perished in a war of extermination waged against them by the Indians, that the last great battle was fought at the falls of the Ohio, in parentheses, Clarksville, Indiana, and that the Indians succeeded in driving the Aborigines into a small island below the rapids, where the whole of them were cut pieces. The colonel was assured that the evidence of this event rested upon facts handed down by tradition, and that he would have decisive proofs of it under his eyes as soon as the waters of the Ohio became low. So basically they found the burial ground when the waters went down. And then it says here, according to a tradition imparted to the same gentleman by Indian chief Tobacco, the Battle of Sandy Island, McGee commanded in the Kanawha, says Dr. Campbell, was told by the Indian chief Cornstalk, with whom he had frequent conversations, that Ohio and Kentucky, in parentheses it says, and Tennessee also is associated with Kentucky in prehistoric ethnography, had once been settled by white people who were familiar with arts of which the Indians knew nothing, that these whites, after a series of bloody contests with the Indians, had been exterminated, that the old burial places were the graves of an unknown people, and that the old forts had not been built by Indians, but had come down from a very long ago people who were of a white complexion and skilled in the arts. In addition to this tradition testimony, various striking traces of a deadly conflict have been found all along the Ohio border. General Clark declares that Kentucky, in the language of the Indians, signifies the river of blood. Fire blazed. Kentucky to the Indian was a land of ill repute, and wherever a lodge fire blazed, strange and unholy rumors were busy with her name. Kentucky, he said, was filled with ghosts of its slaughtered inhabitants. How could the white man make it his home? So, that's pretty interesting because after having lived in Kentucky, and it was a creepy place, I remember taking my nephew, who at the time was about 5 or 6. I had all 3 of them. One was 8, one was 5 or 6, and the other one was like 3 maybe. I took them from Wisconsin when I lived in Kentucky, and I brought them down there. And when we got down there, my little nephew was like, "Auntie, this is creepy." He had never been anywhere before like that. I don't even know if he had been anywhere. And I was like, you know what, bud? You're right. It is a little creepy down here. No offense to anybody that lives in Kentucky, but I lived in Liberty or Casey County for a short time. I was dating a guy, and he wanted to live in Kentucky, and so we got a house down there at the time. And I'm kind of glad I didn't stay down there, because I had some creepy things happen down there. If you ever want to hear about that, I'll probably make a video about creepy things, and that would probably be in my top 10. Yeah, just all these rocks I would find that were flat and they were shaped exactly like a heart, and like the dreams I had down there, and the feeling I went outside when I couldn't be there alone. I couldn't be at that house alone. It was so creepy. And I live in the woods right now up here, and it's not as creepy, but the woods are creepy. So anyways, that's all I'm gonna do for now in this video, and the next video I do, I'm going to do chapter 2, like I said. So if this is interesting for you, or if you have any questions, please feel free to leave in the comments, or you can email me. I'll put that in the description. I have a special email for my ASMR channels, and I can also leave a link to my other YouTube channel if you're interested about my career and things that I do on that channel. But for now, I hope you guys are able to relax and fall asleep, or that you learn